Good morning. I'm Dr. Hubert Keene, president of Farmingdale State College. I'm pleased to welcome everyone here today and pleased to welcome the governor back to the campus. And we welcome you home to Long Island, of course, because we claim Queens as a part of Long Island, and so we know that's your home. I'd like to acknowledge a few special guests who are joining us today, we applaud you all. We're pleased to have you. You know, rarely do we have assembled such a distinguished list of guests here. But let's hold that applause until the end of my list here. First, our own Senator Michael Ditto. Assemblyman Todd Kaminsky, Assemblyman Chuck Levine, Assemblyman Chad Lupinacci, Assemblyman Joseph Saladino, Assemblyman Michael Fitzpatrick, Assemblyman Michael McDonough, Controller George Maragos of Nassau County, Tony Martinez, Deputy Supervisor and Town Councilman of Town of Babylon, Kevin Law, President of the Long Island Association, Supervisor John Vendito, Town of Oyster Bay. So just a few weeks ago, Governor Cuomo outlined a broad agenda for the year in what he called his 2015 State of Opportunity Address. Today, we're going to hear more about what he has planned for the upcoming year, especially as it pertains to Long Island, a special topic of interest for all of us here today. Here at Farmingdale State College, we are, and always have been for the last 103 years, a college of applied science and technology that serves the region and New York State. We put a great deal of focus and effort into providing the best possible learning environment for our students. That means making sure that what students learn in the classroom not only enriches them intellectually, but also that they are educated and have experiences that prepares them for professional lives in the current economy. So one way that we accomplish this is by having a close relationship with the business and industry community of Long Island. We pride ourselves in building those relationships, and we think it's mutually beneficial for us and our students, as well as for the business and industry and the service sectors of Long Island. So one of the ways that has been extremely helpful in recent years is the Governor's Regional Economic Development Council initiative. The Regional Economic Development Councils bring together leaders in business, government, academia in order to support projects and developments that enhance communities across New York State. It's been a true honor for me as a member of the Long Island Regional Economic Development Council to be a part of this initiative that enriches the lives of so many people throughout the region. I think our success speaks for itself. Last year alone, the Long Island Regional Economic Development Council was awarded nearly $82 million to grow the economy and create jobs in our region. It's a testament to what we can achieve when we work together. And I want to thank the governor, not just for another Regional Economic Development Council competition during 2015, but also for launching this program 4 years ago as an inclusive model that brings everyone to the table to work on economic development issues. And once again, thank you all for joining us here at Farmingdale State College. It's now my pleasure to introduce Assemblyman Charles Levine. Welcome, Assemblyman Levine, again. You were just here last week for addressing a conference, so welcome back.
It seems like I'm here so often I might have to start paying tuition, in-state tuition, by the way. Thank you, Dr. Keene. Thanks for the kind words. Thanks to this wonderful college for inviting us here today. We have a special achievement to note, which is that our women's basketball team is undefeated. So we say, go Rams! And let me thank everyone else who's come out this morning in this somewhat challenging weather. So we are here today to talk about the issue of opportunity in our community. And our state is our community in everything from education to our state economy. There are a number of theories, to be sure, about how to attack the scourge of property and how to fight against inequality in our society. But every social scientist, every reputable social scientist, instructs that the opportunity for education is a key weapon in that battle. Differences in opportunity begin as early as childhood, and we know that such deprivation worsens and compounds itself over the course of time. That's why the governor's agenda for 2015 is so crucially important to each of us in New York. It focuses on tackling barriers to opportunity for all New Yorkers. It emphasizes support for those who need it the most, and it paves the way toward a better and a brighter future. Start with pre-K, for example, pre-kindergarten. I was very proud, especially as someone who has benefited from public education, without which, like many of you here, I would have received no education whatsoever. And I also have the great honor of being married to a public school teacher, although she's retired now. So it was my honor to be able to join with the governor and many other state legislators last year to pass a dramatic piece of legislation that provided that New York State, each of us, would invest in a statewide universal pre-K for 4-year-olds so that we could make public, high-quality pre-K programs a reality in communities across New York State and across Long Island. This year, we want to continue to help our youngest citizens. And we want to help these young New Yorkers learn and grow at an early age. And with the governor's proposal to fund pre-K programs for 3-year-old students in high-needs community, I believe, and I know that each of you believes, that we can make that happen. Teachers also play a tremendously important role in our children's futures. And we need to do everything that we can to encourage best practices and value our teachers for going above and beyond on behalf of each of our kids. We Long Islanders pride ourselves on the quality of our public education system, and we know that our students, the Intel finalists, the Siemens Award winners, compete with anyone and everyone else on a worldwide basis and handle themselves quite well. So the task of increasing opportunity doesn't start after students leave high school. And the fact is that too many of our students in our communities do not have access to the same kind of futures as their classmates and their peers simply because of their immigration status. We can end this institutionalized inequality by passing the DREAM Act, and we must do this year. I am very proud to support the DREAM Act and to stand beside Governor Cuomo, and there's the applause line, thank you, in demanding that the full legislature support the dream of each and every student in New York State. Thank you again, and I now want to turn this over to my colleague in government, State Senator Michael Van Ditto. Michael?
Assemblyman Levine, thank you very much. Thank you all for attending today, and of course to SUNY Farmingdale for hosting this event. I myself am a Daler, and I always relish the opportunity to be here and to see the university showcased in such a way. So we thank you for your hospitality. I have the privilege of introducing the governor today, and I want to thank the governor personally for bestowing that privilege upon me. And I want to thank him further, of course, for all that he does to foster a really unified environment in Albany amongst state legislators. You know, as a new state senator, and as actually the youngest state senator, it's been really reassuring to know that, Governor, you are such a welcoming and gracious person, that you're someone who does reach out across party lines. You keep the lines of communication open, and that bipartisanship will get things done here in New York State to the benefit of our residents this year and for many years to come. I myself am no stranger to the ways of bipartisanship. In fact, my wife and I welcomed a little boy into the world last year, and we named him what else? Andrew. Thank you. And so, Governor, I would just recommend, if you do see grandsons in your future, you consider the name Michael. It's always worked for me. With all these things said, I'm sure we're very eager to hear what our Chief Executive Officer has to say, how his game plan is going to impact the lives of our residents, our communities, our businesses, our families, our futures. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I give you, without further ado, the Governor of the State of New York, our Governor, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all very, very much. It's my pleasure to be back. This is a great institution at Farmingdale, really a jewel on Long Island. And we thank the doctor for his great leadership and for making it the extraordinary institution that it is. Let's give Doctor a round of applause. To Assemblyman Chuck Levine, we've had the pleasure of working together for many years in Albany, and Chuck is exactly the right model of public service. He's in it for all the right reasons. He's in it for the right motivations. He's a person of integrity, and we're proud to be able to serve with people like Assemblyman Chuck Levine. Let's give him a round of applause. To the new Senator Ditto, the youngest senator. I was young once, I want you to know. It was many years ago, but I remember it. Senator is the son of Supervisor Ditto. Supervisor Ditto and I have worked together, supervisor of Oyster Bay. He invites me to his annual Oyster Bay cleanup with Billy Joel, which I go to on an annual basis. It is truly humiliating for me, because you want to be humiliated, you stand next to Billy Joel in Oyster Bay. That is a humbling experience. People think I'm his bodyguard and just try to push me aside to get to Billy Joel. But the supervisor has done a great job, and it's been my pleasure to watch Supervisor Ditto with now Senator Ditto. These father and son political teams, you know, you have to watch them. There's a lot going on there. There's a lot going on. And you know, Senator, we're going to hold the bar higher for you. There's higher expectations, because you were trained at the knee of one of the best, right? You've been doing this a long time. You start with the, well, I'm one of the youngest senators. Yeah, but you've been doing politics all your life. And it's been heartwarming to see the father and son, because there's no higher form of respect, when you think about it, than a son who follows his father into the same business. That is the ultimate sign of respect and affirmation. And to see that togetherness is special. One piece of advice, because I went through something that neither of you have gone through yet. Take the time to enjoy it, and take the time to enjoy each other, because it goes very, very fast. And when it's gone, you wish you could do it again. And take my word for that. And I'll tell you this. I will make you a deal, Pop. You come to Albany, and you see your son's new office in Albany, Big Shot's office, the senator's office. Bring the family, and I will buy you a lunch in the mansion. What do you say? You come? Okay, that's a deal. We are going to talk about the Opportunity Agenda. The Opportunity Agenda is our plan for the state of New York for this year. It's a plan that I present to the legislature, and the legislature will vote on through the budget process, which is done basically in April. But more than that, it's a plan that I hope to share with the people of the state to get everybody on the same plan, everybody pulling in the same direction. The plan is exciting to me because it builds on everything that we have done over the past 4 years, and we've done a lot of good things. There is no doubt but that over the past 4 years, New York State has made progress. There's a different energy. You can feel it. You can feel that we're moving forward, and we want to keep that energy going because we've made tremendous progress. When you look at almost any criteria, we started 4 years ago. Unemployment was at 8.9%. Today it's down to 5.8%. We had some of the lowest credit ratings in history 4 years ago. Today we have the highest credit ratings in 40 years from all 3 credit rating agencies. Upstate was in the middle of decay. Upstate is now rebuilding. Taxes and spending were going up, up, and up in New York State. Remember, we were the high tax state. Everybody had to run away from New York. Now we have taxes and spending cut to the lowest rate in 50 years. Property taxes were growing on the average of 6% a year, and now we capped them at 2%, and then we froze them, and this year we want to cut them. Every objective source says that we've made great progress over the past 4 years. New York is providing opportunity again, and our goal this year is to do even more. We kept it as a straightforward agenda. We focused on a few priorities rather than trying to do a lot of things. I'd rather do few important things, but do them well. It's about economic opportunity, education reform, public safety, and ethics reform. On the economy, it's business that is the train that pulls the engine, period. It's about creating jobs. And if you're not creating jobs, then people don't have opportunity, then people don't have hope. If you're not creating jobs, then the local towns, the counties don't have revenues. So it's whether or not we're creating jobs. Long Island, we have tremendous obstacles. We know we do. We have high taxes. We have high property taxes. The cost of housing is very high. Commutation is very high. How do we fight those obstacles to get jobs coming back to Long Island? Now, we've made great progress over the past few years. We have to keep it going. And if you ask me the number one reason why we've turned around the economy in New York, it's because we got the message and we started cutting taxes. And we have been cutting taxes aggressively. The way we cut taxes is by spending less. It's not a complicated formula. If government spends less money, you have more money to do tax cuts. I believe the more tax cuts you do, the more favorable to business, the better business does, the more businesses come, and the more revenues you actually generate. So I believe that is the best way to grow the economy in the first place. But we have been keeping the spending low. We've shown fiscal discipline, and we have to continue to show the fiscal discipline. This chart tells the story of New York better than anything else. People say New York is a high-tax state. I can't afford it. I had to move out. You know why? Because New York is a high-tax state. People can't afford it, and people have to move out. That's why they say that, because it's true. Sometimes people say the truth. And this chart says it. 50 years of the state of New York. 15 years, the New York state government spent at a higher rate than the people in the state were earning income. 50 years, New York State was spending more money than the people were making. Now, you would think that's not mathematically possible, but it is. And that's what we've been doing for 50 years. We changed that dramatically. State spending on average went up 6.8%. Over the past 4 years, it's been going up 1.3%. That differential is what we've been able to give back in tax cuts, and we made historic tax cuts. Middle class tax rate middle class tax rate, middle class up to $300,000 in income, okay? So a very broad middle class definition. Lowest taxes since 1953. You know how long ago that is? I wasn't even born in 1953. And that was a long time ago. We cut the corporate taxes to the lowest rate in 1968, manufacturing tax to the lowest rate in 1917. We want to keep spending down to 2% again this year. We will do that. If we do that, we're going to have more revenue to do another tax cut. This year, I propose a small business tax cut. Why? Because small business is the engine that is creating jobs. Small businesses are who we want to attract. Small businesses are the highest conversion rate for the state. We want to take the small business tax rate and go from 6.5 down to 2.5%. 2.5% would be the lowest rate in 100 years for small business, and that would make a real difference. Second, I want to cut property taxes. People talk about taxes in New York, they talk about the income tax. We don't have an income tax problem. It is a property tax problem. And we pay the highest property taxes in the United States of America. It is a crusher. Nassau and Westchester go back and forth as number 1 and number 2 for the highest property taxes in the United States of America. Upstate New York, by percentage of home value, pays the highest property taxes in the United States of America. And when people say, I can't afford a house, I can't afford to live here, this is what they're talking about. When you're as old as I am, the problem with buying a house was paying the mortgage. Now the problem with buying a house is being able to afford the property taxes. We have to get the property taxes down, and we have been making tremendous progress. 2011, my first year, we capped property taxes at 2%. On average, they were going up 6, 7, 8% every year. And we capped them to go up no more than 2%. Second year, we froze them. So there was a 0% increase in property taxes. First time in modern political history that there was no increase in property taxes was the second year. This year, we actually want to cut the property taxes. And we want to offer $1.7 billion as a tax cut directly to homeowners to offset their property tax. That would be about 1.3 million households getting $1,000 in return for their property taxes. $1,000 makes a big difference. And that's what we want to get done this year. We also want to extend that relief to over 1 million renters across the state. You heard the President speak about the regional economic development corporations. They are a totally different model of doing economic development, where we go to different regions around the state, like Long Island, and we say, you are a region unto yourself, you are an economy unto yourself. We bring in the business community, they come up with a business plan, and we fund their plan, rather than a bunch of bureaucrats in Albany telling Long Island what it should do. It has worked extraordinarily well. It's bipartisan. It brings academic leaders together with business leaders, everybody at the same table, everybody working together, makes everybody happy. Kevin Law is smiling. He won. I think he's smiling because he's standing next to Maria Bartiromo, but whatever reason, it made everybody happy, and they've been doing a great job. We started a program last year that I'm very excited about called Startup New York. Startup New York is very simple. It says the new jobs are coming out of institutions of higher learning. Silicon Valley was what? Silicon Valley was Stanford University creating patents and ideas, and those ideas gestating in the valley and starting Silicon Valley. We generate the ideas in New York because we have the best schools in the country. What happens to us is we generate the ideas, we have the students with the ideas. Once they start to turn into businesses, they leave New York. and they go to lower tax states to start their businesses. We have to keep them here. So the idea is Start Up New York. We'll take a SUNY campus, private colleges also, and we'll make them entrepreneurial zones and no tax zones for new businesses. So you create a new business, you work in concert with the university, you pay no taxes for 10 years. That means the least expensive place in the United States to site your new business is not Florida, it's not Texas, is the state of New York. And by the way, it has the added benefit of you don't have to live in Florida or Texas. You stay right here and you pay the lowest taxes in the United States. You talk about economic development, the gateway is the airport system. And LaGuardia and Kennedy airports, frankly, are a disgrace. And it doesn't make me proud to use that word, but that is the word. They've been under construction for a long time. They were going to be redesigned for a long period of time. Nothing has happened. And we've never really planned our airports intelligently. We don't just have LaGuardia and Kennedy. We have LaGuardia and Kennedy, we have Republic on Long Island, and we have an airport in the Mid-Hudson Valley. Why don't we plan those airports together? So we want to redevelop Kennedy, redevelop LaGuardia. We want to repurpose Republican to get a maximum benefit out of it. Republic is now operated by the State of New York Department of Transportation. We want to privatize the management of Republic, try to take some of the flights from Kennedy and LaGuardia that have people going to Long Island and let them fly directly to Long Island rather than have to land at LaGuardia and drive out to Long Island and get private management to really develop Republic. We also want to make Republic one of those tax-free zones. So in terms of a business park, in terms of a free trade zone at an airport, there are all sorts of exciting economic development potentials for Long Island, and we'd like to try to get that done this year. On Long Island also, this year we're going to be implementing an $810 million plan to redo the Bay Park sewage treatment plant. I know sometimes redoing a sewage treatment plant isn't the most exciting business in the world, but it is very necessary and important. $383 million to make the Suffolk sewer system stronger and more resilient. I think water quality is going to be the long-term issue for Nassau and Suffolk, and it's time we recognize it and we invest in it. We're also going to invest $150 million to construct vertical parking structures for people to do more easily park and ride. And we're going to do the Nassau Hub in Hempstead and Ronkonkoma Station to make parking at the Long Island Railroad easier and less expensive, because we want more people taking the railroad and getting people off the roads. We're going to invest $65 million in the Brookhaven National Lab. It has been doing great research. I believe it's going to save lives, and it is generating an economy unto itself on Long Island. And that is an investment that has been reaping dividends, and we want to include it. When we talk about economic recovery, we want to make sure that everyone is doing well on the entire income spectrum, not just people at the top. And part of our plan is to raise the minimum wage. Why? Because the concept of the minimum wage is if you work full-time, you earn enough so that you are not living in poverty. We just raised the minimum wage, but in fairness, the economy got stronger, the income gap got bigger, and I don't believe the minimum wage is keeping pace with the economy. I don't believe you can live on a minimum wage in New York and pay for food and pay for rent and still be outside of poverty. We want to increase the minimum wage to $10.50 and let people live in decency, and let's get people out of poverty. As you heard from Assemblyman Levine, we are investing heavily and want dramatic reform in public education. Because every politician will get up and talk about public education and kids, and they'll be right. Every citizen will get up and say, I'm a parent and I care about my kids, and they're right. It is all about public education. And the simple truth is we have some school districts that do phenomenally well, and we have some school districts that are doing poorly. And that is the truth. And it's not enough that some school districts and some kids get the best education, and some kids are getting a totally inferior education in the same state. And we want to improve the education system. It is not easy because you are taking on a bureaucracy, and you are taking on a lot of special interests when you go after changes in the education system. But that's why we're in the business in the first place. Our plan is very simple. Recruit the best teachers, close the failing schools, and invest in early education. Recruit the best teachers. You want the best teachers? This is how we're going to do it. We're going to say we will provide scholarships, pay full SUNY or CUNY college tuition to any young person who is a top graduate in their college and will give us 5 years as a public school teacher. You give us 5 years as a teacher, we'll pay your college tuition if you're a top graduate. For those teachers who are currently teaching, we want to offer them an incentive also. There is something called the teacher evaluation system, which is the educational reform being done all across the country. It was instituted in New York about 4 or 5 years ago. Teacher evaluation system is just that. For the first time, we'll have an evaluation for each teacher. And teachers who are doing well get a bonus, teachers who are somewhere in the middle get support, and teachers who are not doing well, we try to support, and if we can't get them to improve, at one point we ask them to move on and do something else. We have had trouble implementing the teacher evaluation system. Why? Because the teachers' union, frankly, is not overly enamored with the teacher evaluation system. And it's actually a little worse than just not being overly enamored. But this is the reform to do. Every other state is doing it. We can do it. It is the important tool, and we want to make sure we have one that is fair and is accurate. The teacher deserves a fair and accurate system, and the student and the parent deserve a fair and accurate system. And that's what we want to do, and that's what we want to do this year. But it's also clear that the current teacher evaluation system is biased towards the teachers. Right now, 38% of our high school students are college ready. 38%. By the teacher evaluations, 98.7% of the high school teachers are rated effective. How can 98% of the high school teachers be rated effective if only 38% of the students are ready to graduate high school? 3rd to 8th graders, 30% proficient in English, but 99% of their teachers are effective. 3rd to 8th graders, 35% proficient in math, 98.1% of the teachers are effective. It cannot be. That cannot be a real evaluation system if it is that disconnected from the student's performance. The solution we need is a fair evaluation. Once we have a fair evaluation system, I say use it to incentivize the high performers. And if you have teachers who are doing well, and you have teachers who are willing to work hard, the state will offer a $20,000 bonus on top of whatever a teacher gets paid by the district as an incentive for high performance, and let those high-performing teachers then mentor the lower-performing teachers. And that's because we do believe in teachers and we want to help good teachers. Those teachers who are struggling, the state would offer a teacher improvement plan where we'd get those teachers support services, counseling, etc., so they can improve. But for those teachers who are chronically ineffective, after the support services, after the interventions, after 1, 2, 3 years of trying, if a teacher is still ineffective, then I think that teacher has to be removed from the classroom. Under the current system and union rules, it is so hard to remove a teacher that most school districts will tell you they don't even try. I was talking to one official. A teacher was accused of sexual assault of a student, and they couldn't get the teacher out of the classroom. That's, in my opinion, wrong, and the pendulum has gone too far. The teachers' union says, I'm anti-teacher. I'm not anti-teacher. I want to pay their tuition in college to get the good ones into school. I want to give the good ones a bonus. I want to provide assistance for the ones who are struggling. It's not that I'm anti-teacher. If a teacher is not performing after 1, 2, 3 years, the teacher should be removed because I'm pro-student. And the education system was not a teacher employment plan. The education system was about the student, not the teacher. Somewhere along the way, we lost this. The teachers' union is the single most politically powerful force in the state of New York. Period. On both sides of the aisle, and I say that in front of my colleagues. But the system has been skewed, and we should bring it back. I love teachers. I respect teachers. My mother was a school teacher. She taught 2nd and 4th grade. I love my mother. I love school teachers. That's not what it's about. But I love my children too. And I love students too. And I want them to have the education that they deserve, because that's what the education system is all about. Second, we must fix what's called chronically failing public schools. A failing public school is a school where less than half the children have been graduating. 9 out of 10 students in failing schools either come from poor communities or are minority. There are 178 failing schools in the state of New York. 77 have been failing for more than 10 years. Over the last 10 years, 250,000 students went through these failing schools. You want to talk about failure in government? You want to know the real Albany scandal? That's the real Albany scandal. That you knew the school was failing. You knew it for 10 years, year after year, and you did nothing about it. And you sent over 250,000 students were sent to a school that you knew they would be failed. It was condemnation of 250,000 students because the government didn't have the guts to take on the problem of failing schools and dealing with it. I tell you, I believe it is inexcusable. It has to end, and it has to end this year. We say if a school has been failing for 3 years, try something else. Give it to a not-for-profit to manage, give it to another school district to manage. The state will come in and take it over. But insanity is doing the same thing over and over and just expecting a different result. After 10 years of failure, 250,000 students, try different management. Sometimes you have to break eggs to make an omelet. If you need to change, do it because it's the right thing by the students, and that's what this is all about in the first place. We believe in charter schools as an option. We would extend charter schools, and we would give children in failing schools a preference to go into charter schools. We'd also make sure that the charter schools don't quote-unquote cream by taking the best public school students, but making sure they have a representative body. We believe, as the Assemblyman mentioned, that we should help all students, and that's why we support the Education Tax Credit Program, which would help private and parochial schools, and the DREAM Act, which would help children of immigrant families get tuition benefits. We're investing heavily in early education. All the experts say the earlier you get the child into the classroom, the better, the most potential for growth. We want to finish our universal pre-K for 4-year-olds, which will make New York State one of the first states in the nation to have universal pre-K for 4-year-olds. We also want to start this year pre-K for 3-year-olds and designing the program for 3-year-olds, because 3-year-olds actually are showing the largest gains in cognitive and behavioral skills if they're getting the education they need, and we want to start simultaneously developing those programs. This is a bold agenda, there's no doubt, but I'm saying to the legislature, if you pass these reforms, I will support a large education increase because I think we can transform the system. The current budget, what we agreed to last year, would see a 1.7% increase in education. That is what we agreed to last year. We agreed to a formula last year. That was the personal income growth formula, which would raise income, raise education funding 1.7. If we enact these reforms, I would support a 4.8% increase in education, which would make a significant difference. The legislature would be bringing much more funding to the local districts, but we need those reforms. I don't want to throw good money after bad. If we have a real evaluation system and we're closing these failing schools, then I say let's invest over $1 billion putting money where our mouth is. In terms of public safety, there is a quiet scandal that has been going on all across this country. It is the sexual abuse of young women. It is the sexual abuse of young women, especially on college campuses. It has been getting worse, and we have been sweeping it under the rug. New York has more colleges being investigated for sexual assault than any state in the nation. The issue is complicated. We passed a new program for SUNY last year, which went into effect for all the state schools, that has two components. Number one, what's called affirmative consent. Both people must affirmatively consent to sexual relations. Second, what we call a women's access to law enforcement. That a woman who believes she's been a victim of a sexual assault must be apprised of her rights, the way we had the Miranda rights that people had to be apprised of. And one of the woman's rights that she has to be informed of is she has the right to contact the police, local police, town police, or the New York State Police. What's been happening on campuses is the woman comes in and informs the authorities that she believes she was a victim of a sexual assault. They bring in the other party. They talk to both. They come back to the woman and they say, well, there's two sides to the story. He says you weren't raped. He says you consented. And they bring in campus security. And the suggestion is that they handle the matter internally. Why? Because the campus does not want the publicity of bringing in the police and the newspaper story because it's bad for the reputation of the campus. And it's in the campus's best interest just to make the whole problem go away. So the implication to the woman is, this is more complicated than you made it, and maybe it's better we just sweep this under the carpet. What that has done is allowed the people who were committing the sexual violation to continue to do it. The estimate is 90% of the rapes are committed by 4% of the males on campus. But the 4% of the males have a very high level of recidivism. They're doing it again and again and again because they're not being stopped the first time or the second time because it's not being treated like the crime it is. This law says Both parties have to affirmatively consent, and when that woman comes in, that college campus has to say to the woman, you have the right to contact the police. This is a crime. Rape is not a violation of some school policy. It may be, but who cares? It is a crime in the state of New York. And don't make the woman feel like she was complicit in some situation or she did something wrong. A victim of a rape is a victim, and she has a right to go to the police, an independent prosecution. Let's find the person who did it. If they are guilty, let's punish them, and let's stop the recidivism, and let's treat women with the rights that they deserve. I want to pass this law, which will apply to every school in New York. I believe if New York passes this law, you will see this law sweep across the United States. What New York does, we did this on the marriage equality law, we've done this with gun control. When New York stands up and passes a law, all the other states take notice. And this is about women empowerment, and this is about women equality. I have 2 daughters in college now. I have the 3rd daughter is going to college next year. And this is one of the fundamental ways we discriminate against women. And we treat women as inferior members of society. I believe that. Let New York pass this law. You'll see it go all across the country, and this law can do a lot of good. Extreme weather is the new normal, as we all know too well. We want to invest in an online management system that coordinates the county, the local, the state, and the federal government. We've had good luck and good relations working with Nassau County, Ed Mangano, Suffolk County, Steve Ballone, as well as the local offices, but we want to have an online system that makes it even better. We want to also increase the emergency response training, and we want to invest in more snow removal equipment, flood management equipment. Hurricane Sandy taught us a lesson here on Long Island. I don't want to be caught unprepared again, because I believe there will be another time. I do not believe this was an isolated incident. You want to hear a frightening statistic? My father was governor for 12 years. In 12 years, he had 11 federally declared disasters. 11 federally declared disasters. I've been governor 4 years. I've had 12 federally declared disasters. There is a higher predominance of these extreme weather patterns. It's getting worse, not better. Let's be prepared. It's a matter of life and death, and I want the legislature to buy the equipment so I know we're in a position to be helpful. We'll also have the most sophisticated weather detection system in the United States because detecting weather is no longer just a convenience. Do you take an umbrella or not? On these storm predictions, we deploy equipment, we deploy personnel. It makes a big difference, and we want to have the best information. Last point is ethics reform, and this is the most unpleasant point in some ways. Over the past 4 years, I believe we've done great work as a state government, and I am really proud of what we've done. We've produced more than ever before. We passed 4 budgets on time in a row, working together, Democrat and Republican, Senate and Assembly, like it's supposed to be. 4 on-time budgets hadn't happened in 40 years, not since Nelson Rockefeller. I'm proud of the friendship and the relationships that we have. Senator Ditto spoke about our personal affection and our personal relationships, and it's worked to the benefit of the state. But we have a shadow over all of the success. And the shadow is the continuing headlines of scandals in Albany. And we just went through another one the past couple of weeks where a long-term assemblyman was arrested for unethical activity. And as long as we have these continued episodes of scandals, we're never going to have the full trust of the people. And if we don't have the full trust of the people, that by definition limits what we can do. And if we allow that skepticism, that cynicism towards government to continue, Our capacity as a government, our capacity as a people is limited. We need to address this ethics once and for all. Otherwise, we're never going to be the government that we want to be. I'll never be the governor that I want to be unless I know the people trust me as governor. Assemblyman Levine can't be the assemblyman he wants to be until he knows you trust him. And Senator Ditto cannot be the senator he wants to be until you trust him. And right now, let's be honest, it's not there. And it's not there because the people are some irrational, cynical beings. People don't trust because every 3-4 weeks they read another story of another Albany politician doing something wrong. And that has to end, and it has to end once and for all. And I have a very simple but sweeping Clean Up Albany plan that takes everything we've been talking about for 40 years and says, let's end it once and for all. Campaign finance disclosure, pension forfeiture reform for legislators who commit felonies, real per diem reimbursement, campaign funds for campaign usage, and what I call ultimate disclosure, which is really what this is all about. Here's the situation. We have part-time legislators. By law, the part-time legislator works in the legislature part-time and then has a business on the side. And the business on the side is a private business. So they serve as legislators, and then they have a private business. And the problem keeps coming up with what are they doing in their private business? And is something they're doing in their private business a conflict with what they're supposed to be doing as a legislator? And the reason the public has always had a question in their mind is, who is this legislator really representing? Does he or she represent me, or do they have a client in their business, and that's really who they're representing? There's only 2 options to clean up that situation. Option A, no outside business. Raise the salary. It's not a part-time job. By the way, it's not really a part-time job anymore anyway for these people. This is not like in the 1800s where you went to Albany for 3 months and then you went back to the farm and cultivated the garden, right? They are working full-time. Either say it's a full-time job and we're going to raise the salary and pay you as a full-time job, which I would support, or say it's part-time and you can have your private business, but you have to disclose the income and the clients from your private business so we know what you're doing and we can trust what you're doing. Because the honor system isn't going to work anymore. And I'm saying I will do it either way. But this year, once and for all, let's answer this question so that there is honesty. And to me, that's the most important thing. And I've said to the legislators, I want to get the budget done on time. It's more important to me to get this ethics done. And as a matter of fact, I'm not going to sign a budget until we have an ethics reform plan that makes sense. Because if we don't restore trust now, after what just happened, we never will. And now is the time to do it, and we will do it. And I really believe it's going to improve the situation for everyone. If we get this plan done, look at what we will have done. Lower taxes again in the state of New York for the 5th year in a row. More jobs, transform the education system. The state will be safer and fairer with those sexual assault laws and the emergency response, and government will be more trustworthy with the ethics reforms. This is a lot of change. It's much more dramatic than it sounds like because it disrupts many of the power centers in Albany. I understand that. And I understand that change is hard. Change is hard in general. You know, change is hard in our own personal life. You know, the married couple at the breakfast table in the morning, and one says to the other, you know, we really need change. Yeah, they mean you really need to change, you know. They're okay, and they want to stay right where they are. You need change. Change is hard, and dramatic change is really hard. And this is dramatic change. And this is dramatic change that a lot of people have to go through. So it is hard, and I need your help. And I make my pitch to the legislators, and I have a good relationship with them. But you know what voice is more important to the legislators than my voice? It's your voice, because you're their constituents, you are the ones they represent, you are the ones they vote for, and I need your voice in this game. We have had a great 4 years. The arrows are all pointed in the right direction. We just have to keep it going, and we just have to build on that momentum. I believe we enact this plan, we're going to take this state and Long Island to a place there's never been before. I need your help to make it possible, but I promise you, we get this done, we'll come back next year, you'll be proud of the results. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Governor Cuomo. That's a great vision for the state of New York, and you have expressed it in inspiring terms. That concludes our program for the morning.